sport, it gets the better of you each and every time you think you've got it figured out. Why, you asked? Well, because South Africa, a team that had won just 2 matches in 8 games prior to their victory over Australia tonight, have done something and have now caused a reshuffle at the top of the points table of the ICC Cricket World Cup. South Africa, playing their final game of the Cricket World Cup, have defeated Australia, who were looking good to end the points table as league leaders, beating them by 10 runs. South Africa causing a reshuffle in the points table, top 4. Yes, you'll join us on ESPN Cricinfo Match Day as Opos are going to be looking back at South Africa beating Australia in Manchester. This is how it played out. South Africa batted first, put 325 on the board. Faf du Plessis getting 100. Rassie van der Dusen getting 95. Nathan Lyon coming good with the ball for Australia with 2 wickets to his name. And then, of course, it looked like at one point David Warner and Alex Carey had rescued the chase for Australia, but it wasn't to be. Australia getting all out for 315. Kagiso Rabada getting 3 wickets to his names. Feklokwaya as well getting 2 wickets as well. And thereby, now what happens is that Australia have moved down to 2nd on the points table and India has moved to 1st on the points table. Here's a look at how things stand now after the league phase of the World Cup has come to an end. India right on top with 15 points to their name after 9 matches. Australia with 14 points. And as we knew before this game as well, England on 3rd with 12 points and New Zealand on 11, which means that India will be taking on New Zealand in the first semi-final at Manchester, and the second semi-final will be played out between Australia and England in Birmingham. So if you're an Aussie fan and you were thinking, oh, my team is staying back in Manchester, it is time to reschedule those tickets. But just to talk about this game, Ajit, the amount the pendulum has shifted in this game, one really never knew what was going to happen. I mean, even after Carey went out, we thought, okay, now game over. But then came Mitchell Starc and a half-injured Khawaja, and it looked like they were doing the rescue job.
Yeah, it's typical Australia, isn't it? I mean, that's why they were, or they are where they are at the top of this table, now being pipped by India because of this loss, but just kept fighting. I mean, even before Carey and Warner got together, it looked like it was always going to be a difficult task with the amount of wickets that they lost, injury to Khawaja, but just kept fighting. Again, Warner just showing what a class player he is, and Alex Carey just, adding to his reputation or growing reputation that we've seen through this World Cup. That he can temperamentally bat really well under pressure at that number 7. So Australia formidable, South Africa better on the day though.
South Africa better on the day. You know, there were points when you were thinking maybe if South Africa is not able to defend this score, then it's going to be a real blow for them. And when you look back at the World Cup and you'll say, okay, it was a major disaster, it's somewhat tapered over the cracks a little bit for you?
A little bit. I think they started so well. I mean, they looked like they were on top in the game with those early wickets, and obviously the Khawaja injury, and then Australia fought back, as Ajit said, and that I suppose exposed South Africa a little bit in terms of some of the things that have come unstuck during this tournament so far. But fortunately for them, that they fought hard at the end there, and that crucial wicket of David Warner, I think it was a great catch by Morris, I think it was. Yeah. So that's the fight back that South Africa wanted the whole time, and it was difficult because the wicket looked really good, and the way that Carey and Warner put that partnership together, started to dominate. You saw a couple of looks of nervousness from Faf's face during the innings, so they'll be so happy to finish on a high, but probably those middle stages showed up a lot of what went wrong during the tournament.
Now we're also joined by Brad Hodge and Albie Morkel from Australia and South Africa respectively. Brad, you've pulled an all-nighter for us, sir, so firstly, thank you so much for that, but what's the word? Disappointing after this loss?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, I think Australia have had such a good tournament so far, and it's a shame that this game, didn't have more emphasis on it for South Africa. It was such a good contest. But for me, I think Australia will be happy. They're up against it. They've shown that, chasing a big total on that ground was going to be difficult, and they've gone close to doing so with an injured Khawaja. They didn't get off to a great start with Aaron Finch going out early, but David Warner and Alex Carey, that was a phenomenal partnership. They played well, got Australia right into the game and gave us a chance to win. So I don't think they'll be too disappointed. I think they're playing good enough cricket to still win this tournament. So you've got to beat the best to win it. So just the trip down the road to Birmingham is just a small hurdle.
Brad, just a word on Usman Khawaja. Assuming that he does not feature in the semi-finals, how does that affect the balance of this Australian side? Of course, Stephen Smith then moves up to number 3.
Yeah, I think it'll be a disappointing loss for Australia. It takes another left-hander out of their middle order, and Usman Khawaja's had a great sort of 6 to 8 months, in this one-day side as well. So, with the loss of Sean Marsh, who also is injured, we've got a good replacement though that's sitting on the bench in Peter Handscomb. So he had a wonderful tournament in India that sort of led this resurgence as well. So. All is not lost. Be very difficult for Handscomb to come in the semi-final and produce something special. But he's a quality player, and hopefully it won't affect the setup too much.
And finally, Albie, let me just remind you, because I think I've been reminding you this in the middle of the show as well. So you had picked Australia for the win. How happy are you with that performance on the field today? I think we've got some audio issues with Albie's line. Hopefully we'll fix it up and we'll get him back.
He's that happy.
No, but from a South African point of view, I mean, it all started, of course, as far as defending that total was concerned. Imran Tahir getting that crucial wicket of Finch and just not letting that lethal partnership take form.
Yeah, we saw the stat before the innings started. I think he's got Finch or had got Finch thrice before. So good move from Faf to actually give him the ball. And Rabada again really good. So the main guys stood up. I mean, kept pressure in those first couple of overs. Finch couldn't get away, then tried to hit a ball that wasn't perhaps there and created the opportunity, Tahir. So they needed that early breakthrough because those two at the top, Finch and Warner, have been the reason, have been one of the main reasons why Australia has been so successful. So great start. And that kind of set South Africa on its way.
A word on Faf du Plessis' captaincy, starting with Tahir, then setting up Smith, and of course getting Rabada in when Maxwell came in. So he was pretty much on the job.
Yeah, I think the brave move to bowl Tahir up front. I think we saw Tahir early in the tournament against England open the bowling, but we probably weren't quite expecting against Australia because of the left-handed Warner. But as Ajit said, there's a good match up there in Finch, and to break up that partnership was crucial and probably the way that they have to win the game. So if Warner and Finch are going, it's going to be tough to stop. So to throw Tahir the ball and get him to do the job in the manner in which he did the job as well, obviously takes a lot of planning, and that's Faf, that's the coaching staff all combined together. But Faf should take the credit for it because he's got to go out onto the field and implement it.
Now, of course, Albie Morkel has joined us back on the show. Albie, we were talking about Faf du Plessis and his captaincy and the kind of moves he, of course, implemented, which has, of course, played a big part in South Africa walking away with that win.
Yeah, I think Faf had a fantastic day today, not only with a bat. I think tactically, when we bowled, it was spot on. He made some good field changes. I think he mixed his bowlers up nicely, and he certainly on his own played a massive role in that victory today. I did say earlier that I thought Australia will win the game, and I'm happy to say that I was wrong, But the big difference today was the South Africans played with a massive fighting spirit and passion that we didn't see earlier in the tournament. And that's pretty disappointing. I think that's something that you can't coach, that comes within. That's what every player must bring to the table. And they certainly show today, people can say what they want. They've beaten probably the best side in the tournament, and they show that they can compete with them at any stage.
Albie, tell us when that Chris Morris over took place, and I think it was about 16 or 18 runs that came off it. Were you thinking, oh no, here we go again?
Yeah, I must say the game was sort of, we never know who's going to win this game, especially when Warner and Carey was batting nicely. I think they got the team back into a position where they could actually, win it quite comfortably. South Africa took a few wickets there, and then, unfortunately, Chris came back and that over went for 17 again, which gave that Australian dressing room, some belief again. Luckily, Khawaja was injured, so he couldn't really use his leg. Otherwise, I think this game would have been even closer.
Brad, a word on David Warner, 122 on the night, just not enough though. But how good was this guy's innings? Just sort of exemplifies what he does on the pitch, that even though he's losing wickets at the other end, he just carries on like a soldier marching on.
His form was incredible, actually. I mean, you've got to give him credit. David Warner he's certainly a fighter, and he certainly, nearly carried his team through to victory. And I like the way that he paced his innings. We haven't lost Finch too many times early in this competition, And David just went about his work, as you mentioned, with players falling around him. I liked his pace. He was always on the run rate, striking at over 100 himself. So, yeah, just a phenomenal effort, and he continues to march on in this World Cup.
Brad, would you say the difference between Australia crossing the finishing line is because that middle order did not contribute much, and maybe if one of them would have put their hand up, this would have been a different result altogether?
Yeah, probably two things. The dismissal of Finch early, who, I think for Warner and Finch, if they had batted 10 overs, they could have done a hell of a lot of damage on that surface. Good pitch to bat on. Not great big boundaries, but fast outfield. And the other one was Steve Smith. We haven't seen Steve Smith get LBW in a long, long time. So he doesn't miss too many straight ones, and that sort of, I think, set us on the back foot. Marcus Stoinis lacked a little bit of intent early. It just looked like, they struggled to claw their way back in until Alex Carey made his way to the crease and made a fantastic run of all 50.
Yeah, Alex Carey is having the tournament of his life. I think Steve Waugh described him as the perfect combination between Michael Hussey and Michael Bevan. And really, I mean, he looks like the perfect combination of calm. He knows when to take on the bowlers. He knows when to take his singles, doubles, and just move on.
It's high praise. I mean, to be compared to those two, I think the thing he did so well today was he took on their spinners, and we thought that Tahir and Shamsi would be difficult to play. Shamsi particularly taking the ball away, and Tahir can as well with his wrong one, but Carey dominated them. He looked to hit them for boundaries. It wasn't just in one area. He swept, slogged them. He hit them over cover, hit them straight. When they dropped short, he was able to cut. So he has proven time and time again this tournament that at that number 7 role, in whatever situation, he'll come in and be aggressive and take the game away, whether it's 92 for 5 against New Zealand and put up a winning total, or what he did today to partnership with Warne. So it's a tough position to bat in, and he's done it so well this tournament.
And the discussion will continue, should Alex Carey come up the order or not come the semi-final, because the guys above him are just not getting it consistently.
I think Maxwell's the one who probably hasn't had an innings in this tournament. He's had a couple of sort of cameos, but today was a great opportunity if he could have played an innings of some sort of substance. But I think every team has their plans. At the moment, Carey's sort of set at number 7, and I don't think Australia will overthink that. They'll expect their batters who come before him to do a bit better than they did tonight, and at the moment leave him be where he's doing the job that's expected of him.
Final word with you, Albie. If you had to sum up this campaign for South Africa, how would you sum it up, keeping in mind what they've done versus Australia tonight?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think this win over Australia will definitely not save their campaign. I think the guys unfortunately let themselves down, but at least they can take a few positives out of this. One would be the guys retiring tonight. They'll enjoy the last game in their happy change room. That's always a big positive. And then it's going to be interesting to see what happens after the World Cup now. Whether there will be more players that retire, whether there will be players taking up Kolpak. What's going to happen with the coaching staff. Because they have to sort of regroup quickly. There's a long summer ahead. I think South Africa tour they've got a full tour to India, and then after the full tour against England. So they're going to have to regroup quickly, and it's going to be a long summer for them if they don't.
Right, so let's just show you now, because what the semi-final lineup looks like of the Cricket World Cup. We showed you the top 4 teams. It means that India will now be taking on New Zealand in semi-final 1 on the very same ground where South Africa has just beaten Australia in Manchester, and semi-final 2 then will see Australia taking on England, and that game of course will be taking place in Birmingham, Edgbaston. Brad, I had spoken to you about this as well in the preview to this game tonight. Australia versus England, always a tricky encounter, keeping in mind the rivalry and all that follows outside of it as well.
Very tricky encounter, yes. I mean, even the dimensions of the Birmingham ground at Edgbaston got a little bit of air time. So small ground, short boundaries, some big hitters lined through that England lineup, and they seem to be on the upward slide, which is trouble for Australia. We look to just be stumbling at the wrong time with a few injuries, so hopefully that can be managed. It's a mouth-watering contest, there's no doubt about it. We're going to see some superstars up the top for both teams. Roy and Bairstow versus Finch and Warner. I mean, it's just riddled with talent. Stokes, Butler versus Maxwell and Carey. So, yeah, for me, it's a batter's delight.
Albie, since you're the neutral one on this panel, final question with you on the semi-finals. How do you see it playing out? Who do you see getting the better of the other?
Obviously, the most difficult semi-final, in my opinion, will be Australia and England. Australia will probably have to regroup tomorrow. They've got a few niggles, few injuries, and they'll have to, probably reassess their playing 11. I feel that England, after their 2 good performances, they'll probably have more momentum on their side. And it also depends on the wicket they get at Edgbaston. If it's a good wicket, England's the team that's going to score 350, 360. So I think it's going to be a fantastic clash. I think England will go through there, and I think India, Dan, will beat New Zealand in the other semi-final.
Albie, Morkel, Brad, Hodge, thank you so much for joining us on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday. It was a pleasure as always. We, of course, are still in conversation with Dan Vettori and Ajit Agarkar. You reckon a lot of people are sort of, not giving New Zealand the respect they deserve? Because whoever has spoken about it, whether it's Australia taking on New Zealand or now when Albie is talking about it, it's always seems like New Zealand is not going to cross the line,
I think it's a compliment to India as well, how well they're playing and how well they've played for a long, long time now. And India and England seem to be coming into the best type of form at the back end of the tournament. So I can understand why people are looking to India and England as the favourites for the semi-finals. But I think New Zealand and Australia will both have confidence within themselves. They've both beaten those teams numerous occasions, and I think they've both been experienced in semi-final cricket and World Cups. So look, I think you could flip a coin for both semi-finals, and it's just a couple of players stepping up on the day, and hopefully for New Zealand it's the likes of Guptill and Taylor coming to the fore, and if you're on the other side of it, you'll be expecting the same from your key players.
From an India perspective, what do you reckon? They'll be happier facing New Zealand or happier?
Like I said before, I don't think it'll matter. You still have to play well. I don't think it's as if a case of just turning up to the ground and beating New Zealand. I think India will have to perform well. New Zealand have got some really good world-class players, and if India don't play well, India won't win. It's as simple as that. I think there's no doubt India will start favourites with the team that they have, the form that they've carried throughout this league phase. But by no means is it a given that they're going to beat New Zealand. They'll have to play well for 100 overs, and if they do, then certainly they'll have a better chance.
You'd have to say the format though has been backed, because the 4 best teams, if I may say, have qualified for the semi-finals and thereby are in contention to win the World Cup.
I think so, and it came down to the last few games. I mean, England had to win their last 2 games to get into the semi-finals. Pakistan ran a close race, so I think it's what the format provides, and I've really enjoyed it, the fact that those teams have been there, but every game feels like it's been a contest for those top 4 teams to make it there. So it hasn't been easy. Most people would have predicted those 4 teams, but it hasn't been easy.
Yeah. You feel the same way about the format?
I quite enjoy the format. I think the one thing it does is, if you have a slowish start, if you're good enough, it still gives you an opportunity to come back and have a say, like Pakistan. I mean, we're talking about Pakistan just missing out, but in spite of a very slow start, they were in with a chance because they won their 4 games. It was unfortunate that on net run rate they were out, but that's why, and you still play every team, which then tells you the best 4 teams actually go through if you are consistent enough through the course of the competition. So yeah, it's the ideal format to decide the top 4.
Right, Ajit Agarkar, Dan Vettori, thank you so much for joining us. Let's just remind you once again, the top 4 is finalized as far as the league phase of the World Cup is concerned. It is done and dusted. Let's just show you the points table once again. India on top with 15 points to their name. Australia second with 14. England with 12. New Zealand with 11, which means that India will take on New Zealand in the first semi-final. Australia will take on England in the second semi-final. Now, for all our viewers on ESPN Digital, thank you so much for joining us. And for all our viewers in the Caribbean, time for a small little break. Mark Nicholas with the captains in the post-match presentation on the other side.